Hello, everybody. This is Noel the Red Devil. We are here to talk about Mason Greenwood, Bruno Fernandez, the manager, and the latest transfer rumors. Now, I don't normally delve into the transfer rumor circuit, as you know. I like to just talk about when deals are done. But after yesterday's horrible performance, and stuff. I am keen to see what players Manchester United are linked to. Um, so we've got a lot to talk about, and I suppose we might as well start off with the Mason Greenwood news. So the latest from David Ornstein is that, and this was via NBC Sports, in the last couple of hours, Manchester United could make a decision on Mason Greenwood as early as tomorrow. Also, the latest is that Manchester United have actually done a U-turn after fan and staff backlash into reintegrating Mason Greenwood into the first team. It looks like that the fans and the staff's reaction to it has prompted senior officials behind the scenes to do a U-turn and to dump Mason Greenwood. And you know what? I think it'll be the right decision. It was handled wrong in the first place, but it will be the right decision. Um, and we could have problems with Anthony in the future as well. And if it turns out that he is guilty, then I will be demanding that Anthony is also kicked out of the club as well. There's like a 70-page dossier apparently on him now. There's going to be a court case apparently, so we'll wait and see. He does get due process, of course. With the Mason Greenwood fandom, it's completely different because the police dropped the case because they said key witnesses had dropped out, right? They said key witnesses had dropped out. So that's not the same as they said that Mason Greenwood was innocent, but that's what they want to go with, right? We saw the audio, we heard the audio, right? And we also saw the pictures, right? There's no way you can explain that away, right? And still, there was never any way back for him because the abuse that he'd get at away terraces, for starters, is another thing, right? Then some within our fandom as well, right, will not accept him back, and you'll get abuse off them as well. So there was never any way back for Mason Greenwood. But again, this club is absolutely a shambles the way they've handled things, and this decision should have been made a long time ago. But we have seen over the last couple of weeks that there did seem to be some movement on the situation because Mason Greenwood was quietly being re-added to all of these, the team sheet and all of this, the squad and all of this other stuff. So we knew, and the club can deny that they never had any intentions of bringing them back. They obviously did. But fair play to the fans that did speak up, and they are the real fans of Manchester United. The ones that are supporting Mason Greenwood, right, are absolute scumbags in this fandom. Also, I just want to add as well that a lot of them came out of the woodwork yesterday when we lost against Spurs, right? So we lost against Spurs, and they said, "Well, I would rather a scumbag like Mason Greenwood in my team rather than such and such a player." Right? If Anthony is accused of the same thing, right, and it turns out he's guilty, I don't want him playing for United either. Right? It's as simple as that. Right? These characters do not belong in Manchester. And I'd actually say this as well. And it's not just for Manchester United, but a lot of these clubs, it's like as if Premier League clubs don't do background checks anymore on these players. Ferguson used to get to know the family, what kind of environment these players were in, because that was important to him. It seems like clubs nowadays don't do background checks on these players, to see if they have a dodgy past or things have been written about them and say, oh, maybe we should stay clear of that. But we don't seem to do that. And it's absolutely ridiculous. But look, as I said, you know, if the club come out tomorrow and say Mason is gone, I won't be sad about it. To be quite honest with you, with the start of the season that we've had, we don't need that extra baggage. We don't need the manager to be questioned all the time about him. We don't need the captain, Bruno, to be questioned about it all the time. It will upset the dressing room. It's as simple as that. And already, you know, we've got fans that want him back, and you've got the other fans that, you know, that just wait for United to have a bad result to come out against the team and the manager. We do not need this right now. Eric Ten Hag and the players need your support more than ever, because something clearly has gone wrong in the background. Right now, we will be talking about some transfer rumors. Now, players that are allegedly leaving the club and players that we've been linked to. But Eric Ten Hag is clearly not getting what he wants. No matter what he says in public, we are deep down, we all know these are not the players that he wanted at United, right? If we had a decent budget, there's no way he's gone for Mason Mount, right? There's no way, right? We would have had Harry Kane here already, right? Along with the young striker. We would have brought in 2 strikers. We still would have brought in Onana, fair enough. But I'm not sure about Mason Mount. So I just see that the club is screwing their manager over again. And people are saying, you know, oh, he keeps going for players that played for him when he was with Ajax. Yeah, of course he does. Of course he does. He's got a limited budget. He knows these players. And then fandom accuse him then of trying to play the Ajax way at Manchester United, and it doesn't work in the English Premier League. That's not it at all, folks. It's not. He's bringing in the players that he knows that he can trust to do a job for him, because he can't take a gamble with the little bit of money that he has. Now, he did take a gamble with the striker, but obviously, like, they must have been scouting him for a long time for them to pay that amount of money for a young kid, right? But if he had the money, we'd have the Frankie de Jongs, we'd have the Caicedos, or the Laddies, whoever all of these players that have other clubs, right? But we don't have the money. He's working with a shoestring budget, right? Because this family just won't get the fuck out of our club. They said they were selling in November and we're still here, right? So again, they've screwed another manager over. And they do, in fairness, every time we do get into the Champions League, they spend a bit of money. But again, it seems to me, just like under the Ed Woodward era, is we seem to be signing the wrong players. We seem to be signing the wrong players. Now, I like Anthony. I think he's very good defensively, but going forward, he's shit. And every week that he doesn't do well going forward, the rumblings in the fandom continue. Some have even said that they believe he'll be a flop. And I'm telling you, he's kind of gone that way, to be quite honest with you. He needs to be doing more going forward, but he doesn't. He runs with the ball a little bit, then he checks back. Instead of taking on the man like Garnacho will do or Palestri will do. And you know what? We'll talk about the manager's decisions, because I want to talk about them today as well. Because it's very interesting that he seems to favour some players, just like Oli did, just like Mourinho did, and we can't be having that same thing happening again under Eric Ten Hag. It just can't happen. You know, he's got to be ruthless and make those decisions, but we'll get into that. But look, on Mason Greenwood, either way, we'll find out next week what happens. But for the sake of the fan base, for the sake of the club, it'll be best if United cut ties with him. If they need to pay him off, I would pay him off. It's as simple as that. Just pay him off, let him be a free agent, and then he can go wherever he wants to go himself. And then he's someone else's problem, right? All of this crap that came out of Manchester United, we needed to support him because he was a young academy player. There's no way back for that young academy player. That's the bottom line. right? So you could try to rehabilitate him all you want. You won't be able to convince the fandom what they saw, the photographs they saw, and the audio that we heard. That yous have something that sheds a different look. And if you did, here's the thing, by the way. Just want to make this clear for anybody out there that's listening, because I see 7 people are listening, and maybe some of you are Mason Greenwood fans, right? So let me say this: if the club genuinely they did their investigation, right, and they have, as they said in their statement, that they have information that sheds a new light on this whole thing. Well, then why wouldn't they stick with their convictions and release that information and say, no, we're bringing Mason back because he's an innocent man? Why would they be doing a U-turn if he's innocent? Because it was all bullshit from the club, right? The club tried to justify this pathetically and have been found out. Listen, I'll say it again. The difference with the police dropping a case because key witnesses, then someone gone, because someone tried to actually compare the Mendy stuff with Mason Greenwood, right? Mendy had a court case, and whether you agree with it or not, he was found not guilty, right? So he went through the due process and came out the other side an innocent man, right? That didn't happen with Mason Greenwood. Mason Greenwood's case collapsed because the police said that key witnesses had dropped out. One of those key witnesses, right, just because, some of you are dumb and fucking stupid and naive, one of those key witnesses would have been his partner. Okay? So then you have to call into question then, what were the circumstances in her dropping what she was going to do, right? What was Mason Greenwood's involvement in that, right? Because we've seen that apparently he was showering her with gifts and all of this other stuff. So some people will say that she was coerced into changing her statement, right? This whole thing is rotten to the core. And no, this is the thing. If the club genuinely and honestly believed that they had stuff that could back Mason Greenwood up, they wouldn't be doing a U-turn and dumping the player, right? Because it's a very valuable asset, right? Whether we like that players as assets, he's worth a few million to United, right? So do you not think they would, because they've already proved that they'll try getting back in? So why haven't they stuck to their guns and they're going to do a U-turn, pull the plug? And again, I'll say to all of you fans out there, male and female, that have supported this and supported the return of Mason Greenwood. And some of you have said if he doesn't come back that you're going to leave the fandom. Well, listen, I tell you what you could do. You can leave the fandom, right? Because our club doesn't need fans like you that support people like Mason Greenwood, right? It's as simple as that, right? Manchester United is a family-orientated club. It's got morals, or it used to anyway, right? Us older fans, right? That means a lot to us as fans. To you, it's all about the glory, isn't it? Winning trophies. You just don't give a shit about the history of the club. You just don't give a shit where we came from, right? When the Munich air disaster happened, Jimmy Murphy said to the board, "We'll be defined by the decisions we make here today," right? Because they were gonna wrap this club up, right? They were gonna wind it down after it, and he said no, because we will be judged by the actions we take today. And it's the same with this Mason Greenwood situation. We will be forever judged if we make the wrong decision. So good riddance, I say. Bye-bye. Anyway, let's get on to the next bit of information. So obviously, if you've watched the Spurs game, it was heartbreak again for Manchester United as we were humbled 2-0 by Spurs. It was a decent first half performance, but we didn't take our chances. The story of Manchester United, especially away from home, we don't seem to take our chance. We got an awful record away from home, but we did have a decent record against Spurs. So I actually thought we'd win that game 2-1, but we lost it 2-0. But during the game, there was a penalty shout for United. And it's funny because none of the pundits or any of the people that were outraged last week when Wolves didn't get their penalty were very quiet this week. But Manchester United should have had a penalty. I even said it when we were doing the watch along. It was a penalty, but we didn't get it. And it was that moment that I believe the game changed, because we didn't get the penalty. And I think the players' heads dropped. And they shouldn't, by the way. I just want to make that point. The players should just fucking get on with it. Why their heads drop is beyond me. Just get on with the bloody game, right? And try and score a goal. But anyway, Bruno decided that he was going to have his say when he was interviewed. And he did say he'll be waiting for John Moss to come into the dressing room and apologise to them, because John Moss went into the Wolves dressing room and apologised for them not getting the penalty. So Bruno made the point, well, we'll be waiting to see if John Moss comes into our dressing room to apologise. He also said that referees, because in some countries they're actually testing this, and I think it's a great idea. He says that referees should actually do interviews at the end of the game to explain some of their decisions. Obviously, and I think that's a great idea. So I think people and fans should get behind what Bruno said there. I think referees doing it. We've been saying this for a couple of years anyway, because the officiating in the Premier League, let's be honest, for what the best league in the world, the refereeing or the officiating in that league is average at best, and that's being generous, right? Some of the decisions, VAR already is very inconsistent. They give a penalty 1 week for the exact same incident, and then next week then they don't give it at all. It's just unbelievable. But Bruno has called out the officials, rightly so. But what I'd say to Bruno and the team is, yes, you should have had a penalty, but then your responsibility then after you didn't get that was to try and go win the game, but you didn't, and you lost 2-0. So, you need to go back into the training room, whatever you need to do, whatever the mental block you have or whatever it is that's going on in that squad, you need to sort it out ASAP, right? Because we got Nottingham Forest next, and we cannot afford to drop another 3 points against Nottingham Forest, and then we have Arsenal then after that. So we need to get our act together, right? It doesn't help that the manager is not getting who he wants, right? We definitely need 2 more midfielders. We need a CDM and we need a CM. We actually, that's what we really need, right? We're linked to Gravenberch. We'll get into the rumours now in a minute. But we're linked to a lot of players, and apparently we're only going for one here. We might go for this player, but I would say you need to be going for 2 of them. So Bruno, yeah, right to call out the officials, but you're the captain. I've noticed something 2 games into the season, and at half time, you and the players have stood on the other side of the pitch and done a huddle. I don't know what you're saying to the players at half time in that huddle, but please don't do it again, because every time you bloody do, we end up being bloody awful. I don't know what you say to them, right? And I know you're trying to be the captain and all of that, but all of that shit should be sorted out in the dressing room, I don't get that shit anyway, you hugging each other in the middle. Will you stop? You do all this talking and all the shit that you need to do in the dressing room before you come out. When you come out onto the pitch, then you're ready to bloody go. You don't call the players over for one more pep talk. You do your pep talk in the fucking dressing room. Anyway, Bruno's performance was awful yesterday as well. So, nobody was immune yesterday. But let's get into our manager and his performance, and because he said some strange things after the match. which I'm not having, right? I love Eric Ten Hag, but he's not immune to criticism, right? Some of his substitute choices have been absolutely baffling so far. I'm only 2 games in, right? I don't know why he's continuing to play Rashford through the middle when Rashford had already made it clear that he prefers playing out on the left when he did that interview with Gary Neville, right? Now, while I was watching pre-season, I saw that he was playing Jadon Sancho there, and I said he's lost his mind. But it worked. It actually did work, and I was surprised, right? It wouldn't, obviously, it's not working as much as it would if we had a proper striker up there, but it worked. Sancho and Rashford, Sancho was actually linking up very well with our front players, and he was actually holding the ball up. He wasn't tripping over the ball as he always does. He was actually doing some productive stuff during pre-season, and then he drops him for the first game, like. So if you're playing that tactic pre-season, why didn't he continue playing that tactic then the first game? Our manager, look, he gets a lot of press from where he's brought us from, right? But some of these decisions lately, and even during the last season, some of these tactical decisions and some of these substitutions were just baffling. And all you still want Greenwood to go and do better than the right wing when we now need Greenwood to come back. Yeah, but you want, listen, I'm not going to get into it with the Mason Greenwood fan, right? Because no matter what I say to you guys, you are going to say we need him back. Listen, if you think that the morals of our club are worth sacrificing to bring back a football player like that, well then you shouldn't be supporting Manchester United. It's as simple as that, right? You obviously don't understand the history of our club and the way we run our club, why we're looked at different to other clubs out there, right? So that's all I'm going to say to any Mason Greenwood fan out there, right? You obviously don't understand our club and how we do things, right? Man United have always been known, even under the Glazers, they've got something. During the pandemic, they got it right, where they made sure that all their workers were paid and all of that, and they were praised for that, and rightly fucking so. But Manchester United took that leap and did that. United have been known for doing things like that ever since we were a club, right? That's what defines us and makes us different to every other club out there, right? Now, we destroy all of that if you bring someone back like Mason Greenwood because of what we've seen publicly, right? And nothing that the club say, right, or Mason Greenwood says, without evidence to back up his claims that he's an innocent man or he was set up or whatever it is, no fan is going to want to know, right? So the club are obviously not prepared to show that evidence because now they're going to do a U-turn and he's getting dumped. He's not coming back to Manchester United. Tomorrow or whenever they make the announcement, it's going to be announced that Mason Greenwood is no longer a Manchester United player. And you will want to get used to it. But what I would say to all fans out there that didn't want Mason Greenwood, you knows exactly what accounts out there supported this creature, right? So when he is announced that he's gone, all of these creatures are going to complain and they're going to moan, right? So what you guys do is you go on a block spree. We don't need those fans in the fandom, right? We don't need fans in the fandom that don't understand our club, our history, and how we do things and how we're looked at. And this is another thing as well for you dumb Greenwood supporters, right? I will tell you now, right, that if we brought him back, right, future players that we were thinking of signing might look at that and say, maybe Manchester United's not the club for me anymore. Because we're looked at as that family club. We're looked at a club that looks after people. If we bring Mason Greenwood back after what we've seen, we're sending out the wrong message. So wake up. right? And yes, I get it. A lot of you are hurt because we got beaten by Spurs yesterday, right? And every time we're going to have a bad result, you morons are going to keep coming out and saying, oh, we want Mason Greenwood, baby. Mason Greenwood, Cristiano Ronaldo. Get over it, right? Cristiano Ronaldo came back here. Yes, he did well in his fourth season. And as a fan, and listen, I watched him when he first came to United. I'm supporting the team over 40 years, right? I watched him. He was a sensation. He'll always be a club legend, right? But he was causing problems behind the scenes, whether he is like it or not, right? And he was right to be sacked and told to get out of our club because no player is bigger than our club. Just like David Beckham wasn't bigger than our club. Just like Jaap Stam wasn't bigger than our club. Just like Roy Keane wasn't bigger than our club. Right? The list goes on of all the players that we've gotten rid of over the years that were not bigger than Manchester United. Right? And we've always survived and we will survive. We've survived Cristiano Ronaldo because we won a trophy. We came third in the Premier League and we got to an FA Cup final. Yes, we were shit, right, in the Europa League. I expected us to actually win that, right? But injuries, fatigue, and all of the above players out of form, it can happen, right? But where we were to where we got to, right, we did that without Cristiano Ronaldo. We did that without Mason Greenwood. All right? So we don't need them. And we don't need players like that in our squad. I'm sick and tired of these type of players that come in, right, and disrupt what our managers are trying to do. Yeah, I'm just a hater. I'm not a hater. I've noticed though, by the way, I've noticed that there's a certain continent on the world on the world map that supported Mason Greenwood. And it's a country that has horrible human rights violations against women. So I'm not surprised by the certain particular fan that support Mason Greenwood because you treat our own women with respect. So why would you be upset that Mason Greenwood slapped his girlfriend around? Right? Seriously, man, grow the fuck up. Respect your women, treat women with kindness and with the respect that they deserve. And if you can't do that, and you're not respecting women if you support that creature, right? And I'm no feminist, by the way. I hate feminists who speak out against feminists. But this is the right thing to fucking do. Get behind the women in their fandom. You don't even realise, right, that women that have been abused, this will be very triggering for them. But no, all you care about is the glory. All you care about is winning precious trophies. Yes, I want to win them as well, but I don't want to sell the morality of our club to fucking do it. And you can call me all the names you want. What sets me apart from the rest of you is I'm not supporting a scumbag, right? Okay? I don't go and hit my missus and knock her around, right? And then force myself on her, right? I don't do that. I respect my wife, right? She's my queen. And I wouldn't lay a hand on anybody laid a hand near her. It'd be the last thing they do, right? And a lot of you fuckers in fandom, right? If it was your sister or your mother or your girlfriend that some bloke bet around and tried to force themselves on, I wonder if you would all say, oh, let's forgive him. Let's forgive that person. And if you did, well, then that just goes to show how much utter scum yous are. Anyway, we're moving on. So we covered the Bruno Fernandes stuff. Yes, so we wanted the penalty. But Eric Ten Hag's match reaction was a bit weird to me because he said his midfield played okay, and look, it was certainly a decent first half performance. But that second half was like the 90 minutes against Wolves. We are so wide open. It's unbelievable. And the midfield needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed in a big way, because it's if we're going into the rest of the season with that midfield, we are in serious trouble. And I actually thought we would have a chance of fighting for this title, because I think it was going to be a lot tougher for all the teams around, and we've already seen that it's going to be very tough. But if we don't get these players in ASAP, we could find ourselves 12, maybe 15 points behind whoever's leading the Premier League. And that's it. That's our season. Well, that's the Premier League season done. So it's important that the club, you've handled the Mason Greenwood situation wrong. Let's see now, can you get these players in? But let's talk about the players. So apparently we're looking at Verratti. Marco Verratti, is not his name, that plays for PSG. Yeah, I don't want him, he's too old. But that's who we're linked to. We're also linked to Gravenberch and Amrabat. Now, we need 2 midfielders. So in reality, if we were to bring in Amrabat and Gravenberch, and I mean the 2 of them, not just one, the 2 of them, then our midfield is a little bit better, and maybe then Mason Mount won't play all the time, and he'll rotate between him and Bruno, because the both of them playing the same position. So then you could rotate those 2, and we could protect Bruno. Do you know what I mean? So we need to bring in two midfielders. We also need another centre back, and we need another striker, right? But we're not going to get all of them. But apparently Brandon Williams and Dean Henderson may be on the move. Crystal Palace have lost their goalkeeper, so they're looking at Dean Henderson. So Dean Henderson may be on his way to Crystal Palace. Let's hope we can get that scumbag out of the club as well, doing an interview on top TV slating the club. So the sooner we get that scumbag, see, that's what Ten Hag has been trying to do, getting all these scumbags out of the dressing room that have made the dressing room toxic. So Dean Henderson hopefully goes off to Crystal Palace. Donny van der Beek apparently is looking for a club elsewhere, confirmed it as well. So there's Donny wants out, and I don't really blame him. To be honest, Donny was like the Mason Mount signing. We brought Donny in, and I was baffled. But I was hoping that we could fit him in somewhere, and then of course he got all the injuries, and he never really look. It's a combination of 2 injuries. The fact then when he did get his chance, he didn't really set the world on fire. But I think it's the right decision for Donny to go. I will be sad to see him go, because we're never going to know what his true potential could have been. And that's what seems to happen with some United players when they come to United, unfortunately. So apparently Donny is looking for a new club, and Brandon Williams apparently as well. I thought Brandon Williams had a good pre-season, and I was hoping he did, because I was hoping clubs would come in for him, because I think we can get decent money for Brandon Williams, because we have to add to our kitty. And if Harry Maguire had went to West Ham, actually we'd probably be sitting here talking about Amrabat now as a new player, and then we'd probably be linked to Gravenberch, and we'd probably be going for him as well, and maybe a centre back. But because Harry now has screwed us over, we've had to look at other players to get out. So there does, again, a few weeks back there was talks of all of these players leaving the club, and then it went silent, and then we heard deals had collapsed, and it was all doom and gloom. But there does seem to be some talk now of players, maybe not necessarily the players that we wanted to leave, but one player that may be going for a big money move, believe it or not, is Anthony Martial. Apparently, there's a Saudi club interested in bringing Anthony Martial to the Saudi League. Listen, all I'll just say to Manchester United, if the Saudi club comes in for Anthony Martial, I don't want to hear this, you're putting a ridiculous price tag on him, right? Just take the fucking money, right, and run, okay? Just take the money and run. Because I guarantee you, after he passes the medical there, if he passes the medical, within a week or two of playing over there, he'll break down again. So take the fucking money, whatever you're offered for him, right? It's a shame because Anthony, I remember his debut, I remember his goal. He looked sensational, and then he was injury prone. And he's another one of those players that, you know, had potential but never reached it. But he's pissed off fans because he every time he's on, he looks like he's lazy, and doesn't give a crap. And we don't want players like that here. I love like him and need him back to Manchester United. Well, that's again, you know, at the end of the day, look, I'm not getting into it again, but again, you know, I don't know why you'd want that sort of player playing for your club and representing your club, who's supposed to, the club is a role model for millions of kids out there as well. So yeah, Brandon Williams, Dean Henderson, and Donny van der Beek may be on the way out. Apparently, Eric Boy wants a loyalty payoff off Manchester United. Again, he's tried to do a Harry Maguire here, so he can get fucked as well because, like, you know, at the end of the day, you know, I do like Eric Bailly, I really do, but that's actually turned me off him because, you know, again, he's one of those players that we brought in that would have been absolutely brilliant for us, I reckon, if he hadn't been injury prone. Yes, he was a bit rash sometimes, but he was a great defender. He just couldn't stay fit. So, you know, again, another player looking to be paid off. I mean, you've been stealing a living just like Harry Maguire has. You know, just go, like, you know, your time's up. We have to get rid of the deadwood. You know, we've been trying to get rid of the deadwood for what, 5, 6 fucking seasons, and now it's actually finally happening. Now players are like, oh no, I'm not down because I want the payoff. Feck off. Sitting on the bench getting paid millions. Like, you know what I mean? Absolutely ridiculous, like. Obviously, Roy Keane, by the way, wasn't very happy with the United performance. He said they looked flat tonight. I'd like to know what they're doing in the training ground. Are they training too much? They don't look full of energy. He also said that Manchester United were desperate and were the new Spurs. And then he was asked about the title race, and he says you'd be living in cuckoo land if you think United are challenging for the title. And look, Bayern Munich are also in for Ferrati. So, you know, they'll probably win that deal just like they did with the Harry Maguire or Harry Kane deal. So that could end. Apparently, Amrabat. Apparently, the rumours linking him to Liverpool are getting stronger as the hours go on, and some have urged Manchester United to get this deal done ASAP before they lose him to Liverpool. But let me tell you this, nobody wants to go to Liverpool. They have been torn down by the 2 players that have gone to Chelsea. Nobody wants to sign for Liverpool. Liverpool are a club that are in a desperate, awful state. Yes, they brought in 1 or 2 players, but it's not going to be enough for them to challenge anywhere near the top 5, let alone Champions League. I don't think they're even going to be anywhere near the top 5, to be quite honest with you. I think there's teams including us, if we can get our act together, that are better. So nobody's going to Liverpool. So, but look, I will say that the longer we do delay this Amrabat deal, and listen, I just want to say to fans out there, right, that maybe don't know why there might be a delay. Let me explain this to you, right? We were always told at the start of the season, United had to after the initial budget that they had to sell to buy. Now we wouldn't be in this position if Harry Maguire had left, right? If we had sold Scott McTominay and not took down an offer for him, right? And then with Donny van der Beek gone, Dean Henderson gone, right? Alanga already left as well, and other players. We would have had a decent little budget for the manager then to go out and get more players. But unfortunately, some of these deals for our players have either stalled or collapsed because players are digging their heels in. Now, the fact that the manager did leave out Harry Maguire from the first team squad is telling me as a fan, because I've seen this plenty of times over the years from different managers from different clubs, including ours. When a player like that is fit, now apparently there is he had a little niggle. He doesn't have a little niggle, right? This is the manager telling Harry, look, I've stripped you of the captaincy. You said in an interview that you don't need to prove yourself. I keep telling you, you know what's expected of you. You've got to prove yourself. He literally said it. He said it in a press conference. If Harry doesn't want to prove himself, then he needs to go elsewhere. Right? So he doesn't want to prove himself. So the manager is clearly doing everything that he can do in these parts to force the issue. But now West Ham are after bringing in the centre back, apparently. So that Harry Maguire to West Ham, which was probably the best option for him because they were going to offer him the captaincy as well, right? And a decent wage, 110 grand a week or something he was going to be offered, plus the captaincy. The deal was there, partly accepted, but then someone says, oh, you know, maybe if we get payoff. And now he wants to be paid off to go to a club that he agreed to go to initially. So now they're out of the running, I think, unless, you know, one of their defenders got a red card today, unless they decide to go back in for him. The other club that was rumoured at the time, but apparently they don't have money, was Everton. I mean, he had a chance to go to West Ham, who played Europa League football, right? Now he could end up in a worse position, right? Because, trust me, what the manager needs to do here is keep doing what he's doing. Don't put him in the match day squad, right? Don't even put him on the bench, right? Leave him at home, right? And by the time Christmas comes along, he'll be jumping to fucking leave. He'll be jumping to leave. It's the only way. Look, we were willing to pay Cristiano Ronaldo off. You guys are saying, oh, Ten Hag was able to force Cristiano out, but you can't force Harry Maguire out. Well, number one, you know, Cristiano Ronaldo didn't have a long-term contract with us. Harry Maguire still has a couple of years on his, right? Second of all, after a player does an interview like that, right, and a club legend like that comes out against the club, you pay him off and you get rid of him, right? Harry, to his credit, hasn't come out and slated the club in any fashion, right? So it's not as if he's going doing interviews and calling us every name under the sun and saying that we're badly run and all of this other rubbish. He's kept his mouth shut. So that's why it's harder to force him out, right? But the manager has made it clear from his actions that he wants him out. So for anybody out there that thinks that the manager doesn't want him out, he clearly does want him out, right? Now it's up to Harry to take the fucking hint and just leave. And remember, in February, by the way, and remember, we got that thing hanging over Anthony as well. We'll see how that goes with him. But in February, Harry Maguire is going to be involved in a court case in Greece, okay? And that'll be more shit that's going to be aimed towards our club. And people think we're going to have, you know what? this could be one of the worst seasons we could have, right? Because of all the shit that's going around. So look, that's the position that we're in, and this is why I'll urge fans, get behind your manager, get behind the players. Yes, you can criticize them when they don't put in good performances, and you can. And I just like to say, you can criticize. By the way, even though I've praised Ten Hag about what we did last season, right, I still did criticize some of these decisions, and this season he has, done a few things that I'm not happy about. Eric Ten Hag is not immune to criticism. Neither was Alex Ferguson, right? Okay. Every manager gets criticised by their fans. Okay, it's a natural thing. But I have heard some fan channels calling for his head already. I mean, we're 2 games in. He took us from the pits of hell last year and got us to 3rd place, won us the Carabao Cup, got us to an FA Cup final, and okay, we underperformed in the end in the Europa League, but you want them to be sacked? You want them to be sacked after 2 games? I mean, we still do have 3 points. Like, yes, we played horrible against Wolves, but we got 3 points. Like, it's not as if we've started the season with 2 defeats. We've gotten 3 points, folks. Do you think Manchester City are not going to... What, do you think they won't drop any points during the season at all? I mean, it's a bit of an overreaction. You could be angry and disappointed with the result yesterday, and rightly so, because none of them put a shift in the second half, including the manager. Right? And then I will say this, why he persists with some players is beyond me. Listen, this is my squad for Nottingham Forest. Pellistri comes on for Anthony. Garnacho comes off. Rashford goes to the left, and Jadon Sancho plays in the false 9 position, right? Because he's not going to trust Tony Martial to do that. And until we get that young kid fit and ready, that's the way we'll have to play. But I've seen some good stuff from Jadon Sancho. I'm not Jadon Sancho's biggest fan, by the way. I just want to make that clear. I think he was overhyped and we shouldn't have bought him. But I saw something during pre-season that changed my mind on him slightly, that he offers us something when he plays in that position. Now, he's not going to be like an out-and-out striker, and he's not going to score you 20 goals a fucking season. But he did link up very well with our midfield, and he did link up very well with our other front two, and he made a difference. So I put him on just for that. But Rashford has to play out on the left. I put Pellistri on instead of Anthony. I don't know why he's persistent with Anthony. Anthony was shit near the end of last season, and it's continued. He needs to put Anthony on the bench like he did when Anthony, I think there was an incident last year with Anthony where he did something that Eric Ten Hag didn't like, and he hooked him, and he didn't play him for a couple of games. He needs to do that. He needs to be ruthless and drop these players. And that includes Bruno Fernandes, by the way. Bruno Fernandes is not immune. When he has a bad game, I expect their manager to be hooking these players. But in the manager's defence, and it's only a slight defence, if you do look at the midfield that we do have and you look at the players on the bench, I can understand why he persists with Bruno. But if he brought in the CDM and the central midfield player as well, then Bruno or either Mason Mount playing that attacking midfield position, could both of them play there, and you can rotate those two, right? And Pellistri definitely needs to be getting these games, and Rashford needs to be playing on the left, and again, you can rotate with Garnacho there, and Garnacho understands, and I think Rashford understands, and they need to understand that they're not going to play every single game, and he needs to rotate between them all. And of course, if one player then shows a good run of form, you keep them in, and then obviously you use the others as a substitute, but they know their role in the team and in the squad anyway. So it shouldn't be an issue. But we need to bring in 2 more midfielders, not just a CDM, but we need to bring in another central midfield player because Eriksen's legs are gone. He's shot. He's done. Eriksen is done. He hasn't come back properly since that injury, and he's done. And it's unfortunate. We're not going to get 90 minutes out of Eriksen, but you might get a half an hour out of him. And I suppose, you know, for now, until we're took over, we just have to kind of accept that. But if that was any other club, a player like that would be shifted on and we'd actually bring in a replacement. Do you know what I mean? So we need to be bringing in... Look, if we don't bring in any other centre-backs, but we bring in 2 midfield players, I do honestly believe that we are set up. We've got Lindelof there and maybe Johnny Evans is staying. I don't agree with Johnny Evans staying, and I do think we do need another centre-back. But if we've only got a budget, right, this is right. So we've got 3 positions we've got to fill. We need another striker, right? And we need a central midfield player, and a centre-back. And some would argue we need a right-back as well. But centre-back is more important right now, in my opinion, right? But we could only prioritise one of those areas. Then for me, it would have to be midfield. It would have to be midfield, right? And I know we've only got the young striker and it's a risk, but if we had a better midfield, a more solid, more balanced midfield, then Rashford banging down the left, you know, Pellistri banging down the right, and then obviously Højlund getting into the box, holding up the ball, bringing players in. That's the one thing that we actually need from a striker as well. A striker that can hold the ball up to bring other players into the fold. And apparently that's the type of striker he is as well. And I've seen a couple of his goals, they're very impressive, but you know, YouTube clips don't prove fuck all. It's what he does within that jersey. When he puts that jersey on, then I'll judge him. But if he ends up firing on all cylinders and he comes in and hits the ground running, and that's what we need, and it's a lot of pressure for this kid, but if he can do it, if he can hit this ground running, right, we get those 2 midfielders, we'll have a decent season. We'll win something then. We'll definitely win something. Maybe not the Premier League, but we'll definitely win another trophy. And then the sooner these fuckers that own us go, the better, folks, anyway, right? It's awful as a Man United fan. Look, I'm supporting this club over 40 years. Last year, after the Liverpool game, I broke down in tears. I was devastated. It was the most embarrassing, because it's against Liverpool, and I know we had other embarrassing results, but the result against Liverpool hurt me so bad that I never thought we'd actually recover from that either, by the way. That was the lowest point for me as a Manchester United fan, was that result against Liverpool. I was gutted. I was devastated. But then I kind of looked at it this way, well, you know, he's brought us this far. Yes, this is a big major hiccup. It's a heartbreaking one. But I honestly believed we could bounce back. And that's exactly what we did. Because he instilled that belief into those players. I don't know what it is with Manchester United, though, because we do have a lot of talented players. But I think for a number of years, a lot of those have underperformed. And it does seem to be a bit of a mental block as well, I think, because we should be getting more out of those players, or the manager should. So either the manager is not doing his job, or these players just have some sort of mental block, or there's something going on with them that don't get them to perform at a consistent level all season. It's always up and down with our team. And I said the one thing that was important for Manchester United this season was consistency. Now, as I said, we're only 2 games in. We could from the Nottingham Forest game onwards, right? And I still think if we play well against Arsenal, we can do them because we did them pre-season. I know it's only pre-season, but we did do them pre-season and we did them very well. So if we can get our act together, if we could beat Nottingham Forest and then beat Arsenal, I think the Arsenal result, if we beat them, or even get a draw, right? I think that will give the team the confidence boost that they need. If it doesn't, then I don't know what you do with these players anymore. Or maybe this is why Eric Ten Hag also is another reason why he's bringing in these players that he knows, because he knows their character, he knows that they'll fight for him, right? And also, they won't have that mentality block that our current crop of players seem to fucking have. But we should be doing much better, even with the players that we have. So something is desperately wrong. But anyway, let's hope Man United will end top 10, not top 4. No. I'll disagree with you on that one. I think it's early days, but I do think we'll get into the top 4. I don't think we're going to finish outside the top 4. Remember, 5 teams now will qualify for the Champions League next year. So if you finish in 5th place, you've got a Champions League spot. So there's less pressure on the teams around, and especially for the likes of the Villas and the Brightons and stuff. 5th place is a good position to aim for to try get that 5th Champions League spot. But no, I disagree with you. I disagree because I do believe now, after the manager has played the same squad two games in a row, he has seen it's not worked and he will change it up. He cannot, I will be baffled if he doesn't change it up. And if he doesn't, then yes, serious questions have to be asked why he's continuing to play certain players who shouldn't really be playing right now at the moment because their form is down. I'm not saying these players shouldn't play again, but what I'm saying is the form doesn't justify being in the first team squad right now. And, if players are not performing, they need to be benched. And that's a problem that we have actually had over the years because we don't have a strong bench. And this is why I'm saying we should prioritise midfield. Bring in a CDM and a central midfield player. And I think we'd be a lot more balanced and a lot more structured in midfield. And then he could rotate between Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes because they both play in the attacking midfield position. So you would have one of them on the bench. And more than likely, it would be Mason Mount because Bruno is always going to start because he's our captain and he is one of our best players, if not our best player. So, that's how we should be doing it. And he says we have cover in all areas. Yeah, we do, but the cover that you have for Bruno is on the pitch with Bruno. So bring in another central midfield player. Then that puts Mount on the bench, and whoever the central midfield player is, then you put him on. Right? You have Casemiro there. And then you have Bruno. Or if you don't want to use the CM, you put a CDM in there with fucking Casemiro, right? And you have Bruno playing up there, and you've got the wingers. It's not even hard to fix the problems that we have, even with the budget that we have. And I think, the Mason Mount signing only works if you bring in another 2 midfield players. But it doesn't work because I heard it on another channel, and it's very true. Mason Mount has unbalanced that midfield completely. It's not as secure as it was last season. it's actually worse. So whoever's behind the recruitment or whoever's, you know, bringing in these players, I mean, top priority was a goalkeeper, centre-back, couple of midfielders and a couple of strikers. But yet we brought in another attacking midfield player. I mean, I'm baffled by it. The first player that we should have fucking brought in was a CDM. And the next player we should have brought in after that then was a central midfield player. And then obviously the David De Gea saga. Then we bring in a new goalkeeper. And then centre back. And we'd probably be sitting here saying to Harry, listen, we've got the money, but we're going to wait till transfer deadline day because your owner, because Daniel Levy has been a bit of a wanker and wants this money for you, but we're going to leave it to the transfer deadline day because you're not going to sign the contract. You're going to go on a free, and he's not going to do that. So hang on and wait because we're going to make a bid for you. But that's why Harry has gone to Munich. He must have known or was told, we're not going to bid for you. So he decided to go. Because I always thought, and I said it even when I started this channel this season, one of my first streams was, you know, the Harry, because the Harry Kane thing was, we're linked to him, and we were linked to him since last season. And I says, listen, they'll probably wait until the end of the transfer window because Daniel Levy, for an owner, is one of the toughest to negotiate with. He will not budge on anything. But Harry wasn't going to sign the contract. So we had to say to Harry, listen, hang on till deadline day. We're not going to, look, you know, we can convince Daniel to lower his asking price because we want to bring in other players to help you, Harry. You know, just bear with us and we'll make a bid for you at the end of the transfer window. But obviously something changed. And that was bringing in that kid. And then Harry Kane probably saw that, well, look, I don't give a shit about the goal scoring record in England. I want to actually win trophies. I'm 29, like, you know, I don't want to be known as the English striker that didn't win any trophies. So he's gone to Germany and fair fucking play to him. I mean, some English fans baffle me. They're going mad because he's gone to England. So you wanted him to stay at Spurs to do what exactly? Because he wasn't winning trophies. And I'm going to say this, even Alan Shearer won the Premier League. Right? You mean to tell me that you'd begrudge Harry Kane winning some trophies so he's got something to be proud of when he looks back, not just goal scoring records and golden boot. You know, he wants more than that. And that shows that he has ambition at 29, the footballer, that ambition at that age. Fair fucking play to him. I hope he does well. And I know he scored his first goal for them recently. I hope he does well for them. And I hope he wins a couple of trophies. I don't begrudge him. But by God, you know, I said it though, paying the money that he wanted for a 29-year-old, I wasn't willing to pay that. But I'm kind of now sad that, you know, I'm happy for him, but I'm kind of sad he hasn't got this jersey on, because he would have guaranteed us. Actually, we wouldn't have lost that game against Spurs if Harry was in our team. We wouldn't have lost that game. And that's why it's so important to have that striker. But look, we'll see what happens. As I said, I honestly, you know, don't think we're going to finish outside the top four. We're only 2 games in. And I do believe we'll get our act together. We have to. Because if it gets worse from here, right, then you've got to ask yourself the question, because it happens with every manager that's come in. They've had a decent first season, and then the second season it goes to shit. So then the question we all have to ask ourselves as fans is then why does it keep going wrong in the second season? And I'll tell you why it keeps going wrong in the second season. It's because the Glazers put their hands in the pocket the second season. They'll always back a manager as much as they can when a new manager comes in. But as soon as the second season comes along, right, yes, they back the manager, but they don't back the manager the way he should be backed. You know, he gets as little money as they can give, right? They say, oh, here's 150 million for you, right? Now, if you want to bring in any more players, you've got to sell players as well, and that's the way we're doing business. And Manchester United shouldn't be doing business like that. The manager should be looking at a budget of around 300 million each season, right? And then if he wins trophies, if he doesn't want the extra budget because he's got a solid enough team, but he wants to bring in a couple of reinforcements, then you do that. That's what Manchester City do. You know, they don't go out and buy 7, 8, maybe 9 fucking players, right? They've done it the way Manchester United used to do it under David Gill and Sir Alex Ferguson. We'd always top up their squads. You know, we'd move some players on, or some players that weren't quite cutting it anymore. Ferguson would recognise that. He'd shift them on, and we'd bring someone else in. Just what City are doing right now. But what do? We bring players in, the form dips, we put them on the bench, we bring in a couple of other gobshites that are just as fucking bad, right? And then we're stuck with a bench full of gobshites that we get into any other team in the Premier League. And do you know how I know? Because you look at all the players that we have up for sale, right? Even Harry Maguire, right? How many Premier League clubs do you actually see coming in for any of their players? That should tell you everything that you need to know about how we do business at Manchester United. Nobody wants fucking players. Nobody wants our players, right? It even got to the stage, okay, Saudi Arabia might be coming in for Anthony Martial, right? Which I'm even surprised about. But if they're willing to pay for him to get him off our books, go ahead, be the suckers like we were with Harry Maguire. Well, I tell you, Leicester seen us fucking coming with the 80 million, didn't they? And so did fucking Borussia Dortmund with fucking Sancho. But, you know, maybe Sancho can change my mind this season if he's given more of a chance. But I've seen more of Sancho. I've seen a little bit more of him, about him, I should say, this season than I have in any of the seasons that we brought him in. So if he can keep improving and does actually justify his price tag, well then I'm all for that because it'll only be better for United. But I still have me doubts, but we got to play him for now because we can't look. It's unfair on Marcus Rashford, right? Wayne Rooney had to do the same thing to accommodate for Cristiano Ronaldo, right? And I just don't want to be seeing Marcus Rashford being sacrificed like Wayne Rooney was for Ronaldo. The way Rashford is being sacrificed now because we don't have a fit striker. I think it's unfair. It baffles me. Pre-season he played Sancho and Rashford. You know, even Mason Mount was in that fucking team, and that team looked completely different pre-season to the team that we have right now. And I don't know what's good. We looked solid, right? And we did have a couple of bad results. And by the way, a couple of fans have overblown those bad results. We played very well and dominated in most of those games possession-wise. So I don't know what you're talking about. We just conceded poor goals, especially against Borussia Dortmund. Well, I mean, Harry Maguire and Lindelof were on the fucking pitch. What do you expect? But the pre-season wasn't as bad as people made it out to be. I watched the whole lot of the pre-season and we streamed it live here. I did a match reaction to every match, right? And it wasn't as bad as people made it out to be. We had a pretty decent pre-season. Kobe Manu getting injured kind of pissed me off because he looked like one of the young players that was going to break into the team. And I do firmly believe once he comes back from that injury, they can get him back. Then I think he'll be part of that squad. But we need players now, and we need them ASAP. So before you go, I'm just going to check, because, you know, this is just be around about the time that we might get some news in relation to Manchester United. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type in the club, and we'll see. So, I mean, it's a politician, so we don't really say politicians. Seriously. So, Manchester United are exploring the market for a new second goalkeeper, with 2 or 3 names being considered. Dean Henderson still expected to leave, with Crystal Palace now interested. But we already read that. Justin United Targo Talibo is not in the Nice squad for the game against Lauren. I can never say that fucking name. He's not injured, so some people are speculating that he's on the way to Manchester United. Manchester United remain in the race and will almost certainly make their attempt before the end of summer market to sign Amrabat. Why is are waiting until the end of the market is beyond me, is fucking morons. Go and get the deal done and announce them during the fucking week. Okay? We've had a bad week this week. Right? We're going into a new week. So give us some fucking good news and say that you've signed a couple of other players. Let's see. There doesn't seem to be any more. I'm just looking at all the journalists here just to see if there's anything. But no, there doesn't. Well, George Galloway, a former politician on Greenwood, rumours being dumped by Manchester United. But let me tell you about George Galloway before I start. George was in the Big Brother house a few years back, ages back, and it's the most cringiest Big Brother clip of all time. Even like when they have these shows about the cringiest moments on reality TV. He's on his hands pretending to be a pussycat licking a woman's hands. So that's who is giving this opinion on Mason Greenwood. So I just want to make that clear before I read it out, because he's a fucking gobshite. Manchester United are a football club, not a Twitter account. If reports are true, they have comprehensively failed their duty of care to a young footballer. Well, where about their duty and care to all the female victims of domestic and physical abuse out there, you fucking moron? Right? So that's my answer to that. So, George, right, you're not a Manchester United fan. You're a Scottish nationalist. You're an asshole. Mind your own fucking business what goes on in your club. All right? And they haven't failed, right? Let's make one thing clear. Mason Greenwood did this to himself. He did this to himself and nobody else. Okay? His actions, right, did this. Right? So Manchester United owe him jack fucking shit. He's been paid well, right? Was even paid while the investigation was going on. We went beyond, right, for a scumbag like him. All right? So bottom line is, he can get fucked, you can get fucked, and all you fans that support them can get fucked. Simple as that. We don't owe him nothing. We owe him nothing. We gave him the platform to be a fucking superstar, and he threw it a fucking way. He threw it away, right? So I've no sympathy for him. He threw it a fucking way. He had what every Manchester United fucking fan would ever dream of, playing on that fucking sacred ground, right? And basically what he's done is he's spit on the badge and he spit on their morals and he spit on what this club is all about because of his fucking actions. We owe him fuck all. Fuck, Jesus Christ, what kind of fucking world are we living in? Seriously, what kind of world are we living in? Get fucked, man. Right? Anyway, that's all the news. I'm off now because one of my favorite YouTube channels is going to be going live in an hour. It's the She Devils United. It's the fan channel there. If you want to go and check it out, they're actually a great channel from from a women's point of view. Getting the girls' opinion of stuff that happened with their club, and their voices are just as important as every other fan out there. So I would urge people, if you're a United fan and you love YouTube channels that talk about Manchester United, and she's a straight shooter like myself, she doesn't beat around the bush, and that's the way people should be when we're talking about Manchester United. None of this clickbaity nonsense from other big fan shows out there. You're already calling for the manager to be sacked and all of this rubbish. Like, get the fucking boat, right? Yes, I agree some of these decisions have really baffled me, right? But it's his second season, all right? Now, if he has a total collapse of a season, then come back and talk to me, and then we'll talk about Eric Ten Hag's future. But I think he has earned the right and earned fans' trust to do right the second season, right? And I trust him, but I will not sit here and blow smoke up his ass. If he gets it wrong, he'll be called out for getting it wrong. And he was called out yesterday, and that's the end of it now. We move on. The Spurs game is done, right? We move on to Nottingham Forest. And now what I want to see for against Nottingham Forest is for those fucking players and the manager now to step up and fucking put in a good performance. Not just a good performance, but also bang in a fucking couple of goals as well to shut people fucking up, right? And then roll on to fucking Arsenal then, and then we can all get nervous then and hope that we don't get hammered. But hopefully by that time then, we might have a couple of more players in the fucking squad that might make a fucking difference, and then we can go into the Arsenal game with a little bit of fucking optimism. But I'm not writing this team off yet, right? Yes, we have problems, but I'm not writing the team off. I'm not writing this manager off, right? Because he's made me believe in this team. He's made me believe in my club and fall in love with my club again, right? Just like Ollie did when he came in for the spell that he had. Ollie picked this club up off the ground and he gave us moments to be proud of. And I'll always be thankful for what he did, but his time was right to go when he did go. And again, by the way, just to show you how scummy this club has been run, after they got rid of him, I know Ollie wanted to do the interview, right, on MUTV, but any sane club would have said to him, listen, Ollie, don't do the interview. You'll only get upset. You'll only upset yourself, right? But they fucking let him. They let him. And then he got on national TV and he broke down in fucking tears. They did that to our fucking legend, right? They did that to our former manager, right? I'll never forgive them for that. Not the way they treated Ollie. No. Ollie was a special player for us. He doesn't get the credit that he actually deserves, but Ollie was a fucking legend, right? He gave everything for that club. And even as manager, I know he gave everything, right? And he gets criticised for being a Glazer yes man. But I can tell you one fucking thing. He gave everything. He gave everything as a manager for this club. He just wasn't good enough. But he gave his blood, sweat, and fucking tears for us. A lot more I can say about some of these fucking players that we've had over the years. So get behind the manager, get behind the squad, because they need you more than ever, right? Because we got problems because of our owners, okay? And the manager doesn't need this, and the players don't need this. We cannot be getting on their backs because we've had a rough start to the season. We still have 3 points in the bag, okay? We still have 3 points in the bag. I said we'd get 9, right? I was wrong, okay? I thought we'd beat Wolves. I thought we'd beat Spurs, and we'd beat Nottingham Forest, and we'd have 9 points, right? But I was wrong, right? I'm not going to panic because we're 2 games in, right? Because the Liverpools will lose. Chelsea lost again today. Newcastle will lose again, right? City are going to lose games. They're not going to go on this unbeaten fucking run. They're going to lose games. They have lost games. They're not invincible, right? So why everybody's panicking after 2 games? You know, we panic if this is when we panic, right? And this is when you can have legitimate concern. If we get to the end of the transfer window and we don't bring anybody else in, and that's it, then panic. Yes, then I'll agree with you all, and I'll come out and say we're fucked. Yeah, and we will be, by the way, we'll be rightly fucked, right? Because that midfield is just not. Listen, you would have to put Scott McTominay in there, right? So you'd have to drop Mason Mount and put Scott McTominay in there, or Ericsson, right? To get a more balanced midfield, just to balance it up. Just to balance it up. And are those 2 players good enough now? And trust me, McTominay can't really play that role either because he's a bit of a box-to-box man. He likes to get forward. So even McTominay there is not going to work. So that's when we panic. If we don't bring any other midfielders in till the end of the... How long have we got left now? It's the 20th. We've got 11 days before this transfer window closes. 11. Come back to me in 11 days, right? And we'll see if we brought anybody else in. And probably in 11 days' time, I'll be on here in tears, crying my eyes out, saying we're going to be absolutely destroyed. Or I'll be coming on here in 11 days' time with a big smile on my face saying, oh, we've actually done some more business. And these are the players we've brought in. 11 days, folks. So fingers crossed. But get behind the manager, please. Okay? Get behind the team. I'm not saying you can't criticise. Of course you can. And I know a lot of us react right after a match, so emotions are high. Right? But take a step back. Remember, it's still a better start than last season. Right? If you want to put a positive light on it, right? Even though you can't really. But if you wanted to, hypothetically, we've had a better start than last season. So, come on. Let's wait until we're 7 or 8 games in. Let's see where we are. Let's see what business we've done. And then we'll talk. You know, I just want fans to get behind us, you know. Because, look, as long as the Glazers are here, right, this team and this manager are going to perform miracles, or we're going to underachieve, or we're just going to be absolutely rubbish, right? The main issue that we have now are just those owners. That's it. We have new owners, they bring in the players that the manager wanted, and we wouldn't be talking and having these issues. We'd be sitting here pretty confident. But look, I'm not ready to give up on Eric Ten Hag. I'm not ready to give up on this squad. They proved last year that they can bounce back. But the problem is, and I will say this, I don't want them to having to keep bouncing back. I would like us to try and be consistent. Because I do believe if we're more consistent this season, we'll have a good season. I really do. I mean, that team finished third. You take Mason Mount out of that team and Onana out of that team. The rest of those players all played last year and finished third. Right? So there is no excuse, really. Mason Mount has unbalanced the midfield. That's the problem. We've brought in the wrong player. Well, I mean, I can understand why you brought in Mason Mount if you're bringing in the other two midfield players with Mason Mount and you're actually having cover for the three players in midfield. Then it would make sense. So we'll see at the end of the transfer window. If they bring in Gravenberch or Verratti, even though I think Verratti, we shouldn't be bringing in Verratti, but I'll take him because we need to fucking... He'd be better than fucking... what's his name that we brought in from Bayern Munich and didn't do fucking anything for us. And even though everybody was blowing smoke up his ass. I could picture him in my head, but I can't just think of his name. Ponytail guy. He plays for Borussia Dortmund now. I don't give a shit. See, he's that forgettable that I don't even remember. And then we brought in Weghorst as well. I remember him all right. But yeah, we need better than that. But he'd be better than what's his face that we brought in. So, but we need to be bringing in two midfielders. We'll see what happens anyway. Look, gonna leave it there. Thank you everybody that has. We've actually had a good few people watch today. I want to thank you for that. But do us a favor, hit that subscribe button if you like what you hear on this channel. Listen, I'm not going to be one of these fans. I don't beat around the bush, right? But also, I'm not one of these channels that's going to be a bullshit artist and do all of this clickbait nonsense. I'll tell it as I see it, right? And whether you like it or not, that's up to you yourselves. But this is how I'm going to be. I'm going to be honest to my convictions and honest with my beliefs and my opinions. And I'm going to put them out there for you guys then to decide whether you agree with me or disagree with me. And remember, we all do have different opinions and we don't always agree with each other all the time. But it is also very important to remember to respect people with other opinions, except for the Mason Greenwood fans, because they don't deserve any respect, because anybody that supports an animal like that puts their hands on a woman and then tries to force themselves on that said woman, that's not the type of role model we need at Manchester United, or the type of person that we need at Manchester United. And we certainly don't need those fans at Manchester United either. So anyway, if you do like what I've had to say, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. And please do share if you do agree with me and you do like what I do here. Please get us out there. We're a small channel. We're starting off. This is our fourth season. We'll be around for the long haul, hopefully. And we will continue to bring you, obviously, our coverage as we do. We're covering the Premier League, the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, and the Champions League. But in fairness, we could be knocked out of half of that fucking trophy soon if we keep playing the way we're playing. But come and join me anyway, because we'll be covering all of the Premier League season as well, doing match reactions, Eric Ten Hag's press conference. We do the press conferences on match day, because it's nice to hear what the manager has said. I know they do it the night before, and some channels do that, but I like to do it on match days, because then we get to hear what the manager actually said. It's fresh in our mind, and watch the match, and I think that's a lot better. So we'll be doing these press conferences as well. And then, of course, then when I feel up to it, after we've had a game, I will come on here and kind of react after the fact. I don't like to react straight after a game. Even when the match is over, I'll say a few words and then I'll leave. Because I like to give it a couple of days before I say something. Because, you know, it's still raw. But I've calmed down since yesterday. So, you know, I thought it'd be a good idea to do it today. But we really do have to step it up. And hopefully we do. Look, I'm trying to remain positive. Of course, it is very difficult when you're a Manchester United fan. But I'll remain positive for now. We'll see what happens against Nottingham Forest. But if we have a same kind of performance against Nottingham Forest, then yes, there's something seriously gone wrong. And Roy Keane even questioned, are the players being overtrained? Was pre-season too long? I don't like to use those as an excuse, but maybe there is a genuine excuse here because they look very leggy. A lot of them do, and we've only started the season, which is baffling. So we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. We will be back again next week, because I'm pretty sure we'll be back tomorrow if the Mason Greenwood stuff drops. But come and join us all next week. We will be doing streams here, there, and everywhere. As I said, talking about the latest stuff that's going on in their fandom, with our team, and with transfers as well. And let's hope now over the next 11 days, United start making serious moves in the transfer window, because if we don't, folks, it's going to be a long season ahead. And, I think a lot of us will end up bald by the end of this season, to be quite honest with you, if it ends up being a rough one. Let's hope it doesn't, because we don't need that. I hope we have another decent season and win something. And, baby steps, baby steps. But if we had Sheikh Jazim or whoever, or someone with a decent bid, listen, we'd probably be challenging this season. But unfortunately, that may not be the case. But look, I will remain optimistic. If United can get their act together, I still believe we can do something this season. And I'm not going to be one of those fan channels straight away writing us off. Not yet. Not yet. Give it time, right? But there will come a point where I will agree with people if we continue to have a bad season. I'm not going to be one of these stubborn fans. Trust me, when I know we're going to have a bad season, I'll come out and I'll agree with you all if it does end up going that way. But for now, I'm going to remain positive because we're only 2 games in. We've got 3 points. We played Spurs. Yes, we've had a decent record against Spurs, but we're still playing a decent enough side, let's just say. And it wasn't always going to be, Spurs game. Sometimes against Spurs, not always an easy game, but we always seem to get the result. But they got a new manager. He's got his own style, and players do get a bit of a G up when a new manager comes in. So look, we'll wait and see what happens. Right. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye bye.